I'm gonna try to take as gingerly walk as I possibly can because I got so much information
Hmm.
from all comments. So I'm gonna start backwards, I guess. So at one time or another, I was a cosmetologist. I did hair for 15 years, and I noticed black women in the so-called hood versus black women in urban areas. There was a major difference of the quality of hair. Now in the hood, you got all kind of styles. The hair is laid, very inventive and genius, but the quality, meaning the health of the hair, was not like the suburban women. So I started paying attention to the styles that was probably half of the cause. In the urban areas, they get a wash, deep condition, a roller set, wrap it, and go about their business. Their hair is almost to their in the middle of their back, and this could be the tightest Shabazz hair you can find. I'm talking about it's so tight it feel like it's grabbing a comb. You try so um but it didn't matter. And we are taught to brush our hair though to get those 7 layers up of skin that coil have to go through to loosen the hair pattern. I bear witness. I've seen it happen. We can even see the minister how his hair changed. Okay. The other portion of this phenomenon that I believe deals adds to this thinning um, and the condition of the black woman's hair is her stress level. The stress from the hood in a suburban area was they didn't have the same type of problems. So that's a good cause. And we know whatever underlying disease may be present, stress is an agitator and an aggravator of said disease. So some of us are stressed and um, we have symptoms of other things and not putting the two things together. Every time I get upset, my side hurt. That's something to pay attention to because that stress is aggravating something underlying. More than likely, you may have some type of kidney stones or something. Something is off. So I wanted to start. Oh, yeah. And then with the cyst, because I work with Dr. Patina a lot, and it's something that she sees a lot within the nation. Um, and again, that's suppression. It's stress, holding on to things, and you develop a cyst is almost like a boil inside, and people know that boils are localized infections that collect and they burst, right?
Hmm.
Now, up in 25, we have had at least 3 deaths and a plethora of ill believers. We have our student secretary just went and had surgery, right? So this is something that I've been noticing too, Sister Peggy. I just decided to do a health fair and combine the two. I miss what you said because my niece just had to FaceTime me, Brother Luke, man. I know you were marrying how we hold things on a cellular level, an atomic level, and that contributes to disease, and it's absolutely true. So I decided to do a health fair because one, we are not the type of people that go to the doctor with ease
Hmm.
because we believe that we're going to hear something we don't want to hear. And plus, it's not being delivered in a loving manner. And that's what I love about Dr. Patina. Um, no matter what the diagnosis is, she's very hopeful and she's a soldier. So she go to war immediately with whatever it is. Praise be to Allah. And I guess oh yeah. Another thing, the testosterone that I've been looking at with the sisters. Um, and this trade off because the men are more feminine, the women are more masculine, And I know this is not that everybody is eating the exact same thing and drinking this. So I know it's environmental. It's something in the air, definitely something in the water that is contributing to this. And I think this hair thing with hair loss and the cysts and the fibroids. See, Black men, their enemy normally is the white man and his system. The Black woman has become a stress factor of the Black man, and that is because she's not in a place where women like to be. And along with that, now social media, because we have to add that to it, social media, the social outlook of the Black woman is just, she's next to nothing. Literally next to nothing. So there is no healthy outlook of self-importance, self-worth. Now going back to your original comment with us and who and knowing who we are. So I got Brother Wesley book with the Black God. And I'm only on page one. So on page one. But I'm so impressed about the capacity of our ancestors. And we had to really look into this part right here. What they put in the universe, what they wrote in the heavens, how come that pyramid emits light ever so often? We have lost that knowledge. However, I was watching a Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to a lecture. He was talking about the angels. And as he was talking, the camera panned off to Brother Ali Baghdadi and Brother Semi Atakan.
Atakan.
Yeah, him. And he was saying how they are here watching us, the Nation of Islam. In particular, because of the whole reason the master said he'll go himself. They gave up on us. They said that we were not going to be civilized enough to be brought into civilized society. What what this book is allowing me to see is that even though the civilized family gave up on us, when Master Father Muhammad decided, when his father, by Allah's grace and mercy, decided to put things in motion, this being is such a great light. Of course, we know the history that they had to close the book up because the light was so bright. I don't know if we're adding to that factor, Brother Yusuf, that though they thought we were not savable, and looking at this book of the Black Gods and looking into the heavens, Allah came to make us equal or beyond that capacity. So I think it's like you said, a false sense of humility. One of the biggest tragedies or travesties that were done to us is taking a God and making him believe he was a nigga. And that's accepting that. So our goal is to attain a type of niggerhood that is okay by this very limited world. We really have to start thinking outside the box of this world, knowing that the heavens and the earth belong to that original man. That comment.
Yes, ma'am. I'll see if I can save this for last, but there's a video clip a brother sent me where Mother Tanetta Muhammad goes into speaking about the recording angels. I don't know if has anyone ever seen that before, where she talks about the angels that are assigned to the believers when they become.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, Brother Yusuf, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, when the sister was talking, and then you was talking, and Sister Angel was talking, it brought me to the problem book number 2, when it says the wife of W.D. Farrad's uncle in the wilderness of North America weighs other than herself. Therefore, she has rheumatism, headaches, pains in all joints, and cannot walk up to the store. So Minister Farrakhan talked about the store represents the store had a storehouse of knowledge. And you know what? You've done over 200 videos, Brother Lukman, right? And I was so busy that I didn't get into your pine class, right? But what got me was that piece. I was like, I got to make time. When you dealt with that book called Deadly Emotions and how psychosomatic illnesses deal with physical ailments of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And spot on, brother. The sisters in sisters class are burdened with stress that is suppressed and not released. Mm-hmm. And because they don't understand what Law's doing in their life for the trials of purifying themselves, they suppress it and they shy away from the storehouse of knowledge, which is the healing, to be able to understand exactly what the sisters are going through. This is why God came in person, man, because he knew that our condition was so horrible that he had to come himself, man. And to show forth of his love and understanding, he suffered 3.5 years and placed his heart, mind, and soul in Elijah and raised him up to himself. See, there's one thing to say, I love Elijah, but do I trust him when I go through something I don't understand? See, he says in Isaiah 55, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. My thoughts are from above and our thoughts are from beneath. It's easy for me to say it. But when God brings circumstances in my life that I do not understand, we tend to suppress it instead of trusting the God that he knows what we're doing. Now, brothers have it hard too as well, because we as men, we have to put on this bravado, this macho-ness that nothing affects us. We have to be Superman every second of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things we go through that we suppress because we don't have viable brothers who we can express our pains to, that won't judge us, that won't laugh at us, and can understand the plight of the Black man and to give us healing to be able to push forward. This is why men tend to transition quicker than women.
Mm-hmm.
Women have more of an outlet. It's more acceptable in society for women to cry, to vent, be emotional. But if a man is emotional, it's more of a feminine characteristic that you're not supposed to do that, even though we are vulnerable to life circumstances and situations. This is why I talk a lot, because I'm straight wiring myself to be able to deal with my personal journey in oneness with God. And I feel like talking about it, talking over the word, it releases the negative energy I experience in the course of the week that gives me healing. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we have to be a real family. I should be able to come to you, Brother Lukman, and come to you with my innermost problems and secrets. We go to Allah, but then I could be able to go to my brother and I could be able to vent. Mm-hmm. And then you able to give me the word based on your studies and be there for me to be able to help me get through, and vice versa.
Yes, sir.
And this is what's causing a lot of the physical ailments and the stresses and the deaths that Sister Angel was talking about, because, man, we say we love each other, but we don't trust each other with our darkest moments because we think we're going to be judged. We rather take it to
or someone's going to report us.
Or somebody's going to report us, but we all fall short of the glory of God. Mm-hmm. And we have to overcome that. So that's what I want to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Yusuf. Sister Tina, assalamu alaikum. You're on mute if you're trying to talk, Sister Tina. Sister Ania, assalamu alaikum.
Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam, Brother Lukman. You wait till I step away from the phone for a second.
That's
This program.
to get you back. That's to get you back to the meeting.
Yes, sir. Well, wa alaikum salam, everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Sister Anya, assalamu alaikum. And you're on mute in case you're trying to talk. And then we have Sister Denise. Assalamu alaikum. You're on mute, Sister Denise.
Wa alaikum salam. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, sir?
I'm finding yourself.
Woo, I'm fine. This is the week.
What is the week? What's happening?
Ministry of Arts and Culture. We say we're about to do this program on Saturday. So
What is that?
The Ministry of Arts and Cultures presents
Okay.
the expression
Mhm.
and fun. An evening of expression and
Oh,
fun.
that's right. Remember you
And-
talking about that. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Now we got a violin in on it.
Mhm.
We got a violin of the fight song.
Mhm.
Oh boy, it's gonna be a wild one.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we just getting to know each other.
Mhm.
We have quite a bit of new believers, and we just having a good time getting to know one another. Isn't
Mhm.
that nice?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So I'm excited. That's all.
All right.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. I
Uh-huh.
finally got off mute.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Ania. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Praise be to Allah.
How's Brother Wahid?
He's fine also. He's on as well.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Wahid. I know you're there, so you don't have to come off mute. We're just thankful that you're here. There he is.
All right, Islam. I love all of you. And forgive me for getting so long and asking your greetings.
Oh, we love you too, brother.
Okay. We'll talk again soon, inshallah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Two quick points off of what Sister Angela and Brother Yusuf and really Sister Peggy were talking about with the sicknesses. I'm gonna read something to us, and I want you to see if you find a connection with this to problem book question number 1, question number 2, question number 5, and question number 6. I believe it's those 4. It says this, it says, what does this mind do? It shuts off hearing recall. It places vocal circuits in the mind. It makes people tone deaf. It makes people stutter. It does anything and everything that can be found in any list of mental illness, psychosis, neurosis, compulsions, and repressions. What can it do? It can give a man arthritis, bursitis, asthma, allergies, sinusitis, coronary trouble, high blood pressure, and so on down the whole catalog of psychosomatic ills, adding a few more which were never specifically classified as psychosomatic, such as the common cold. Then it says, discharge the content of this mind's bank and the arthritis vanishes, myopia gets better, heart illness decreases, asthma disappears, stomachs function properly, and the whole catalog of ills go away and stays away. Now, don't those sound like the same illnesses found in the problem book?
Yes, sir, brother. Keep teaching, brother.
Okay, that's coming from page 65 of Dianetics. Interesting.
Mm.
It says, it talks about It shuts off hearing recall. It places
Mm.
vocal circuits in the mind. It makes people tone deaf. It makes people
Okay.
stutter. But doesn't the 13 rules of instruction say that the stammering tongue is speaking clear?
That's right.
Stammering and stuttering
Oh,
are the
wow.
same thing. And there's two things that L. Ron Hubbard speaks a lot about in Dianetics: visio recall and sonic recall, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. In the Holy Quran, it talks about those who disbelieve, whether thou warn them or warn them not, they will not believe. Allah has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and there's a covering on
Right.
their eyes. So
Mm.
it almost looks like the way that the chastisement is described in the Holy Quran has something to do with putting a seal on the heart. And the word heart in this instance is kalaba, which means mind. And then there's
Oh,
a
wow.
seal placed on the vision, and there's a seal placed on the hearing. Does that seem like it might line up or have ARC with Visio and Sonic shutoff?
Mm.
It kind of sounds like we're talking about the same thing, except in the Holy Quran, it's speaking about this in an allegorical manner, correct?
Absolutely, brother.
Wow.
Okay. But I went down one day and I went through every illness that he mentions on page 65 of Dianetics. And every one of them line up exactly with those illnesses that are described in the problem book, which would imply that the uncle, the second uncle, and the wife of the uncle could be suffering from psychosomatic illnesses, correct?
Mm. Yes, sir.
Because problem number one says the uncle of W.D. Farad lived in the wilderness of North America and lived other than his own self. Therefore, his pulse beat 78 beats per minute, and this killed him at 45 years of age. But now, if you look at the first part of that question, and this is how many times did his pulse beat in 45 years? Well, you can calculate how many times his heart beat in 45 years, but you're not going to solve that. Doesn't solve the problem, right? Knowing how many times a person's heartbeat doesn't solve it, correct?
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
But if you look at that problem, there's a conditional there. The uncle lived in the wilderness of North America, and he lived other than his own self. Therefore, so now you have what's called an implication. You have a conditional that produces an implication. These two things are taking place, and it's producing these two things to happen. In other words, he's in the wilderness of North America, and he lives other than his own self. This produces the condition of his heart beating and shortening his life, correct? Y'all with me?
Yeah. Yes, we with you. Go
So,
ahead, brother.
so there's something that's taking place that's affecting his heart. But now, if you look at what's taking place, he lived in the wilderness of North America, and lived is past tense, correct?
Oh, okay.
Lived in the
Yeah.
wilderness of North America, and he lives other than his own self. Now, when you have a conditional, you have an and statement, both of those conditions have to be true in order for that statement to be true. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Wonderful.
If one of those things is false, then the whole statement is false. And therefore, it negates the outcome.
Right.
So based on the wording of problem number one, we could look at it in this fashion. In order to change the uncle's condition, you either have to take him out of the wilderness of North America,
Yeah.
or teach him a knowledge of self, or both.
Right.
Put him in. So in other words, change of environment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Or education. Those are two valid therapies, yes?
Yes, sir.
So if we apply the therapy, what effect does that have on the heart rate? It's going to cause the heart rate to lower, correct?
Yes,
Decrease
sir.
the
It
heart
would.
rate. Therefore, what happens to his lifespan? Would his lifespan increase?
It would.
So how do you solve his problem? we know we can't change North America as crazy it is here. So you have to find a way to get the uncle to be in the world and out of it, right?
Sir. Yes,
So
sir.
you have to teach him a knowledge of himself. So he's in the wilderness of North America, but he has a knowledge of himself. So he doesn't let the wilderness affect his health. One of the reasons why we're sick, I would think, is all of us are in a stressful environment, but we are allowing the stress to get to us on certain levels.
Yes, sir.
So we're praying, but we're eating. I mean, it's just real. I'm just saying it because that's what I suffer from. You know, I get stressed, I snack. I'm trying my darndest to get to one meal every other day. And it seems like whenever, and I've shared this with the believers before, whenever I say today I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, as soon as I go to work, there's a whole table full of cakes and cookies because people like to bring the firefighters. I mean, the people love the firefighters, so they like to bring us stuff. So the days I say I'm fasting are the days when there's a whole cake or someone just donates a pizza. I mean, the universe there's a sense of humor in the universe. As soon as those of us that represent little gods, it's almost like as soon as we say kun fire kun, we automatically bring upon ourselves the test to see if our word is going to be bond. And I always joke around about food because not to point the finger outward, but that's the finger I point back toward myself. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Me too.
Okay. Let me go ahead, Brother Yusuf, as I'm gonna pull up this power.
I remember prayer when I was younger, my mom taught me. She said, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That's right.
To offset, that's why this is what you're saying is so beautiful, man. To offset any stresses in our lives is under the restrictive laws of Islam. See, I can only accept what I can control. Master Prophet Muhammad came and gave us a fail-safe system to deal with all the stresses that we acquired under 450 years of slavery. We have to put on the whole armor of God in order for us to sustain optimal mental and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
I can accept the things. See, I can't accept what others do around me. That's beyond my control.
Mm-hmm.
But I can control certain dynamics in my life, and that's the restrictive laws of Islam. That's the dietary law. Now I'm just thinking about what the sister said about the six sisters. Mathematically, it's safe to say that could those six sisters be overweight? Because they deal with their stresses with eating. That's what we all do.
Mm-hmm.
I go through something. I eat, man. I snack because it gives me comfort. That's why they call it the Food and Drug Administration, man. It's healing. It's comforting. I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I need some type of solace to deal with the person's ignorance that they said about my character that's not true and is bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm long suffering, I'm taking plenty. I can't be like 99% of the people on earth and say, who you talking to? Do you know who I am? I'm a man. Don't talk to me like that. But I suppress it. But still, the energy is in me, and it's not. It has to be released. So I release it on some cookies. I release my pain on some cheesecake, on the fish sandwich at 11 o'clock. I go to the breakfast buffet and try to look around. I don't see no Muslims because I'm trying to deal with my pain. You know, the vegetable omelet and the biscuits. You know that? You know that I'm talking about? But look, man, that joint real,
brother.
That joint real. Chick-fil-A, Polynesian sauce. Oh my God, are you kidding me? We know we're not supposed to be doing these things, but men and women, we need an outlet. We dealing with ourselves. It's hard to deal with ourselves because we have a little bit of world in us. But when you deal with people that you love, in particular, that disrespect you, that take your kindness for weakness, and you have to be long-suffering and deal with that, that is hard to deal with. Because you have to be a Muslim at all times.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's easy if the enemy comes against you, that's nothing. But when it's that old familiar friend, that disrespects your divinity, and disrespects your kindness for weakness
Mm-hmm.
and abuses you and uses you and just constantly don't see a God in you, but you still have to overcome that and service them with love. Do you know how challenging that is? Some days I want to be selfish, well, Lukman.
Mm-hmm.
Some days I want to chop people's heads off.
Yes, sir.
Because how dare you disrespect my divinity when God has fashioned my heart to be sensitive to you, and you're going to constantly throw more dirt on my character when that's not the truth? That's hard. And unfortunately, a lot of brothers are not other than themselves. Them 6 sisters in that sister squad probably got men that disrespect their divinity, disrespect their kindness, say all manner of evil against you, and it'd probably be a husband that it hurts. Good night, man. And they cry and cry and cry and cry. They might be embarrassed that they have children with this crazy dude who disrespects her, call all out her name, and she suppresses the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes her pain out on burgers and French fries and pizza. But instead of her releasing it, getting Dianetics to express her pain, she suppresses it, which unfortunately causes physical ailments and diseases. So this is why we need each other, man. And this is why we need the Honorable Minister Farrakhan to understand that God is not doing it to us. He's really doing it for us. But we have to embrace our own personal cross. So thank you, Brother Lukman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Yusuf. Go ahead, Sister Angela.
Yes, sir. I wanted to talk about this phenomenon I ran across. So I was looking at some of the Kodaks. And those are the pictures of us and our ancestors on the plantation, working in the field, working in the house. And this is what made number 2 come to life for me, question number 2 in Supreme Wisdom. Because here we are, especially if you watch the Unchained Memoirs of a Slave narrative, you have actors acting out the memoirs written by slaves. Well, written by those that got the stories from the slaves because the slaves couldn't read or write. And Samuel L. Jackson's wife is reading one of the memoirs, and it bugged her out so much. At first, she laughed at what she was saying, and then it just hit her what she said. How the slave master had the slaves pulling the plow in the wintertime and said the niggas was looking like turkeys running in the snow. And at first she did a laugh, and then she got very somber because, the visual came to mind. But I pay attention in the pictures because when you listen to the stories, slaves resorted to chitlins and collard greens and sometimes grass and breast milk because there was not a surplus of food. Most slaves were starving. How in the world was this woman big still? I could never answer that. I know she not eating, so then I started paying attention to the Black woman, especially MGT. I know some of us might get what do you call that? What's the hot sign? What's the name of them things? Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme.
Get a Krispy Kreme here and there, a vanilla wafer, Oreo, or even a burger, but it's not a consistent thing. And then you got MGT that's going to the doctor because they know some of them are eating once every other day, once every 2 days. I was one of them. I ate every other day. Didn't drop 1 pound. Not one. And it's not just the stress of eating, it's the stress of the hormones. Cortisol is one of them. I just learned of another one that basically helps you continuously store fat and feel like your body goes into starvation mode.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's the stress of the Black woman that got her hair falling out, that got her with the fibroids and the cysts, the testosterone is just so much. What storehouse? Because I don't know if we have come to this understanding. The domestic life that we've been bracing ourselves for, supposedly the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I really believe it's our personal ones. That is the trial of the nation right now. The sisters that are not married, the brothers that are not married, the sisters and brothers that are married, our children, our domestic life is one of the biggest stress contributors in the nation. And most of us don't see it because we are feeding on social media, feel good moments. We playing games at an alarming rate. We're just fostering and adopting and adapting with no real ways besides, and auditing, unfortunately, is not even the language in most mosques these days. Not even guided conversation or straight wires. It's just, it's my prison. And I'm going to be in my cell. And you get that? My cell. Cellular level. Adam, I'm going to be in my cell on the engramic level, just trying to make the best of a non-winning situation. And unfortunately, a lot of us have accepted. So,
Based on that, Sister Angela, I'll give us a challenge that we can do at whatever time that we can do it. There'll be the 30-minute challenge and a 60-minute challenge. And try to sit for 30 minutes, sit still, one seat, no phone, no TV, no nothing, and just try to sit in silence for 30 minutes. When you can do that, try to do it for 60 minutes. And you'll come in contact with something in Buddhism called the monkey mind. Have you ever heard of that before?
Monkey what?
It's called the monkey mind. The monkey mind.
Oh, monkey.
Monkey.
Okay.
Because a monkey likes to jump. A monkey likes to jump from tree to tree.
Right.
In Buddhism, they have something called the 12 points of dependent origination. And it's a cycle of action that has 12 parts to it. One of the parts is a monkey that jumps from tree to tree. And that represents how our mind is. Sometimes we sit still and we think about this, then we think about this, then we think about this, then we go think about this. It's just like how we are on our phone,
Change the channels. Change the channel.
Yep. We just go channel to channel. And and if you notice, that's why those TikTok videos, and that's why a lot of the things you find on the internet right now, they're little short duration type things, correct?
Right.
Because they're right in line with the monkey mind. Our attention span has become anywhere from 15 seconds to 60 seconds, and then we flip to another one. So instead of them trying to grab our attention with something that's like 10 to 15 minutes long, they cut it up into 15 1-minute segments that will last 15 minutes, except we start at like 3 o'clock, and next thing you know, we look up and it's 8 o'clock at night, and we say, how was I just sitting here for 5 hours flipping through?
Before you know it.
Okay. So give me 1 second. I gotta plug in this other computer. So that's where we are nowadays. We have lost it. We have lost it.
I just listened to the word channel as we were saying it. Man, it's just right in our face.
Yeah, programs, channels.
When you channel something, especially on a spiritual level, when you channel something, you take on the characteristics of that thing.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta be a witness quickly, and I don't mean to take it, but I did a course. I do courses I did a course the other night. It's been about, let's see, it may have been 2 months since my last course. Ah, man, I could barely get through the reading. I was so impatient. So impatient. I didn't have the patience to read the material to do the doggone. I said, you know, you bad girl. You got to get this thing together. You gonna read? I don't care if it takes all night. You gonna read all of this material instead of doing what you normally do, skim over everything.
Monkey mind.
Yeah, use that mathematical theology to pass tests.
Just
But it's
remember monkey
hard to
mind. That's what the monkey mind
retain.
is.
Yeah, so I had to go to war with it the other night. Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's get into it. So this is based upon an ayat I was reading over a couple of weeks ago, and then I started putting this together. And by Allah's grace, I saw something in it, and I thought, let me do some word clearing. And as I was doing the word clearing, these concepts started to formulate, and it seemed like it was right in line with the concept of auditing.
Oh.
So this is where we're going to go with this. There's a concept, you find it in Science of Survival, it's called, have you ever heard of analytical attenuation? Okay. This is a concept that has some ARC with different aspects of the Holy Quran. I'm only going to present one aspect, but there's many. I'm gonna, God willing, I'm gonna try to work on something that will look at this more in detail at a future time. So it's based on this ayat, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Allah desires to explain to you and to guide you into the ways of those before you and turn to you mercifully. And Allah is knowing wise. And Allah desires to turn to you mercifully, and those who follow their lust desire that you should deviate with a great deviation. Allah desires to make light your burdens, and man is created weak. Now, Allah has already told us in the Holy Quran that some of the verses are decisive, they are the foundation of the book, and others are allegorical, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Allah has also told us that He's given us a book explaining all things. If it's a book explaining all things, then all things has to include the text, correct?
Yes, sir.
So my thought is that the principles of the tech of the science of the mind is already in the Holy Quran in an allegorical fashion. Does that make sense? And this is what we've been discussing for the past, as of this past April 4th. We've been doing this now for 3 years by Allah's grace. So we can bear witness that we have found in the Holy Quran an allegorical representation of the tech, yes? All right, I need some feedback. I can't see nobody.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. So here's an overview. I'm gonna try to do this so we can get this completed in time to get to the next Zoom meeting that starts at 8 o'clock. So I'm gonna be moving kind of fast.
Yes, sir.
So what could be meant by Allah desires to explain to you and guide you into the ways of those before you? And how can we marry that with the tech of Dianetics? What could be meant by turn to you mercifully? Who are those that follow their lusts? Why do they desire that you and I deviate with a great deviation? What could be the meaning of lighten your burden? And how is man created weak? So we're going to take this ayat from the Holy Quran. It's Surah 4, ayats number 26 through ayats number 28. and we're going to marry this with our supreme wisdom, our Islam, and our teachings. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, what are the ways of those before you? What is that? What could that mean? How can these ways be explained? And how can we be guided into these ways? What is it about these ways that is so important? Could the ways of those before us, a guidance into these ways, and an explanation of these ways be describing a process similar to auditing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is this the mercy that is being described allegorically? Okay.
Possibly.
Okay. So now, what are the ways? Here's our word clearing. First, it says, Allah desires to explain to you. Okay. So this is the Arabic. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Arabic. My Arabic pronunciation is not the best. But there's two key words here. Yurid, which means desires. And in that word, you'll see the word bayin, which means to explain. Yurid comes from the root word rada. And rada, and this goes back to something that Brother Yusuf said earlier. Brother Yusuf, I think you said Allah wants us to win, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you were tuning in on the subject matter because this word rada means to seek to win, to have in mind, to repair, and to explore. Okay. It is Allah's desire that we explore, that we repair, and that we win. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Because it's not Allah's desire that we fail, not as believers.
Right.
Okay. And the word bayina comes from the root word bayan, which means to make clear. Oh, there's that word again. To make clear, to make plain, and to make evident. So when you look at Allah, desires, he desires for us to explore something to get to the root of it in order to become successful and to become better, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
right.
Okay. Then it says, and guide you into the ways of those before you. The two key words here are guide and ways. And this is where this is a key point. Here's the two Arabic words, and then here's the word guide in Arabic comes from the root word hada. Okay. It means to lead to the right way, to penetrate, to find, to detect, and to discover. Well, doesn't that sound like auditing? Isn't that what the auditor's doing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It also means to be led back, to find one's way back. Now you can look at it in two ways. Does that mean going back? Could that mean going back on the time track? And could it also mean coming back to present time?
Mhm.
Okay. So if we're going back and coming back to present time, then we're traveling back and forth on the time track, correct?
Yes, sir.
So wouldn't that be the way that we learn the ways of those before us?
That's true.
Okay. So the word ways in Arabic is sana, which is where you get the word sunnah from, like the sunnah of the prophet, the ways
Oh,
of the prophet.
yes.
Okay. And the word sunnah means habit or habitual practice or rules. So the way I was looking at this ayah and clearing the words in Arabic, I was looking at this from the standpoint of when we go back on the time track, See, we all have habits right now, right? We have our own habits. Remember, we have what's called the coins. Who remembers what the coins are? What are the coins? COINS. What are they?
O is obsessive compulsive.
So C is compulsive, O is obsessive, I is what?
Insanity.
Insanity. N is what?
And is
That's your neuroses.
Neuroses and psychosis.
Psychoses. We know psychosis starts with a P, but the P is silent. So that's where you get the word coins. So the things that we are suffering from today, meaning our 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 obsessive behaviors, our bad behaviors, because all of us aren't saints, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll be the first one to say I am not clear by a long shot.
Second.
Yes, sir.
So all of us are dealing with certain behaviors, but come to find out, our behaviors is not based on us, it's based on either things done to us or things that we witnessed in our past, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Why does he fear now that he's a grown man? Because he was taught to eat the wrong food when he was a child, correct?
That's right.
In that, to me, there's a principle that states the way we act now as adults is based on something that happened to us in our childhood. Okay. So when we are guided into the ways of those before you, the way I was looking at this with respect to the other two ayats was, in order for us to be successful, we have to be guided into the ways of those before us, meaning if we go back on our time track and we face what happened, then what takes place during processing is we will identify what was done to us or what was said to us. So then the recordings that we have in our head, we will realize that those recordings don't belong to us, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the activities that we're engaged in, we're not engaged in it because we're a bad person or bad people. We're engaged in this because of something that happened in the past. That had nothing to do with us, correct?
Yes, sir.
sir.
So we are just suffering from, and this is what came to mind as you were talking, Sister Angela. This is generational aberration that we're carrying around. Okay. So some of us will cuss someone out because we still have some of our grandfather in us. You know, me personally, I come from a long line of hell raisers. I'm on both sides of my family. Okay. You know, I come from on my father's side, you know, my father was a hell raiser. I found out my grandfather used to spar. What was that boxer's name? There was a boxer, something Junior. I can't remember his name. But my grandfather was a boxer. They used to box, used to spar with his father. And my Floyd, what's the name? Floyd?
Patterson.
No, it wasn't enough. I can't remember the name. Anyway, bottom line is this. I get my bad temper, you know, from a long line of crazy people. Let's put it that way. I'm looking forward to going clear. Okay.
You don't appear to have that kind of characteristic.
Well, that's because I wear a certain mask when I'm with
Okay.
believers. But see, I'm gonna state this sidebar real quick. Not only are the women increasing testosterone and becoming more manly, it seems as though men are increasing the estrogen and they're becoming more feminine. Because just recently at work, I was told that there's supposed to be a meeting. They don't want me there because I'm too aggressive. But it's not that I'm too aggressive. It's just that the way in which I ask questions, I don't give you any wiggle room. It's either yes or no. I don't want no BS. Don't come around and try to sidebar and all this other stuff. Don't try to dance. You know, I'm overly aggressive. And it's not that I'm overly aggressive. I just don't tolerate BS. when it comes to work. Okay. But it seems as though, and maybe I shouldn't have said this, but I said, some of these guys are acting like little girls. I said, but that's incorrect because even girls have a little bit of testosterone.
All right now.
Some of these dudes, it's like, I don't know if it's in the food. I don't know if it's just younger generation.
That marijuana.
Like the minister said, they need to go to Walmart and there's something they need to buy. And y'all know what the minister talked about that they have to go buy. Maybe they got to increase their testicular fortitude, I guess you could say.
Okay.
This younger generation is weak. It's really, really weak. I don't know what it is. And I'm just generally speaking. I'm not
Yeah, especially them young men, they are.
It's something about being in the nation, boy. It just makes you don't, there's certain things you just don't tolerate. Anyway, let me get that. So what we suffer from now is based on, remember, there's 4 flows. It was either something that was done to us or something that we witnessed, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, those are the 4 flows. Those are 2 of the 4 flows. So could guide you into the ways of those before you, could that be describing a process of being led back in order to find, detect, and discover the habits of those before us?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because if Allah says he's gonna put it through a process to make us better, and if the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is said, between pages 81 and pages 83, that's the foundation of which I try to stand on with regards to this. If he said we're going to go through a 20-year period where our mind is going to be made clean, there is no abracadabra mystery process. It has to be a process that is well-defined, well-organized, mathematically structured.
Yes, sir.
In order to produce an outcome, correct? It's just not abracadabra.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So there has to be a process. Could this be describing a process of going back on the time track to find, detect, and discover the source of our present time aberrations?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, again, all this is just based on 3 ayats from the Holy Quran. But the beauty of the Holy Quran is this. Each ayat is like water. And there's a saying in Sufism or Sufi Islam, there's a saying that water takes on the color of the cup that you pour it into. I remember this quote from college so long ago. But if you take water and you pour it into a red cup, the water appears to be red, correct?
Yes, right.
If you pour it into a blue cup, now the water looks blue. And if you pour it into a green cup, it appears to look green. But really, the water never took on any color. It took on the color of the cup that you poured into. I believe it's the same way with the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as well as what we've been given in the Holy Quran. Each one of us could take any ayat and examine it and break it apart based on where we stand, based on our level of study, and based on the things that we enjoy studying. And we can each see in that ayah something totally different, but everyone's understanding would be correct. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
That's right.
That's the beauty of the Holy Quran. Okay. There's no other book like it. So could the process of auditing be a mercy from Allah?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in The Divine Destruction of America, Can She Avert It? He said grief is going to be one of the tools that Allah was going to use during the chastisement. So if grief is going to be a tool, not only were we warned through the minister of what the tool was going to be that was going to be at the root of the chastisement, but through him was a way to circumvent or diminish or help us get through the grief by using the tech that he said that we should be studying, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The ways and the habits. So in studying the ways of those before you, So if you look at it dianetically, it says on page 427, it says, in the absence of an ally, and even in the presence of, oh, wait a minute, where'd you go? Even in the presence of an ally, he uses reactive mimicry. Conscious mimicry is a wonderful way to learn. Reactively, he once had an ally and imitates the ally. Consciously, he may not even recall the ally or the habits of the ally. What is that saying? That's saying that some of the stuff we're doing right now in present time, we don't even remember the person because we don't have that access to our reactive mind, right?
Right.
We don't even know who it was on our time track that either did the act or produced the act that we witnessed. We don't even know who that person was. So when an individual says, I don't, I know certain things in my life and, I'm upset because, and, I remember certain things, people got to realize the stuff that's really causing the aberrated mind is based on the stuff that we can't pinpoint.
Right.
Our aberrations are based on the stuff that we can't access that memory. So we don't even know the root of our own aberration. We can't get to that point on our own without the tech, because as soon as you try to get close to the reactor, that point, what happens? We can't cross that barrier. Two objects can't occupy the same space at the same time. The analytical mind and the reactive mind can't be on at the same time, correct?
Right.
That's why during auditing, it is the analytical mind of myself and the analytical mind of the auditor that's helping me push to get to my reactive mind.
Right.
Okay, we can't do that on our own. And that's where some of us make our mistake. We don't want to do the tech because we think we understand why we are the way that we are, because we remember what Aunt so-and-so said or Uncle so-and-so said. No, we're crazy as hell, and that craziness is rooted in the stuff we can't remember. We just have the effect of it, but we don't know the cause. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So now who is the ally? He says on page 427 again, he says the ally, remember, is somebody who has entered the interior world of the mind when the analyzer was shut down by illness or injury or an operation and gave forth sympathy or protection. The ally is part of the sympathy engram. So the ally is someone who is the ally, and what the ally has said is something that is stuck in our mind.
Oh.
Can someone grab a dictionary real quick and look up and we did this a couple of weeks ago, but we didn't read the definition. Pull up the word earworm, EARWORM, and just let me know when you look up that definition, earworm. Okay.
Earworm.
Earworm. It's a term I never knew existed until I saw it pop up. And I was okay, well, I'm going to use that. Okay.
Earworm.
So our craziness is based on what someone said or done to us, and we can't even remember who that person was or when it happened.
You want me to read it?
Whoever's got it, who wants to go for it?
You can go for it, Sister Angela.
Okay, go ahead, Sister.
Oh,
Angela.
I didn't know because I made my screen small. If you had your hand up, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sister Peggy.
It says a catchy song or tune that runs continually through a person's mind.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard a song on this radio that you don't like and it just sticks in your head and you find yourself singing it later and you're like, why the hell am I even singing? I don't even like that song, but it's stuck in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's called an earworm. It used to happen to me years ago when my daughter was fairly young. I had my bookstore and I would have her at the bookstore with me. In order to keep her busy, she would watch Barney. So I'm doing what I'm doing and she's watching Barney, and I'm hearing it, but I'm not hearing it. And sometimes we're driving, and next thing I find myself singing these dumb, stupid songs. Because I had the earworm. Earworm
Yes,
is right.
sir.
Earworm is like, I love you, you love me, and that
Yes.
Barney song.
Yes, they stick in there. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So That earworm is like the whispering of the slinking devil. It's that recording that just loops in our mind. But sometimes we say certain things to ourselves, and we don't realize that that is what was said to us. And now we invalidate ourselves because we have this demonic earworm. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So the aberrated behavior we have in present time has its root or origin in the behavior of an individual on our time track that we don't even remember. We don't remember. But we're stuck. Haven't you ever said to yourself, there's something is not right. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I can't figure out what it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the way I tell when I go to the org, you know, and they ask me this question, I say it's like being in a haunted house. I know the boogeyman is there somewhere. I just don't know which room he's gonna jump out at me from. And this is in my own head. I know there's something wrong up here, but I can't figure it out. Okay, something's not right. In Brother Luke Mon's mind, the elevator don't stop in every floor. Then Allah says, turn to you mercifully. Okay. So when you look at the word turn, it means to turn from sin, but it also means to be converted. Okay. And when you look at the word converted, it means to alter the physical or chemical nature or properties, especially in manufacturing. But now this goes back to what we were discussing earlier, because it also means to change from one form or function to another. Well, what does auditing actually do? Well, we know in auditing, the engram is held in place by adrenocorticotropic hormone, right? ACTH. We've discussed this before, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
So ACTH is a stress hormone, and this is mentioned, I think, in 3 places in Dianetics. In book 1, he mentions this, where ACTH is like a glue that keeps the engrams in place. And the research has shown that ACTH is removed through crying. So when someone is being audited and we're trying to remove the charge, what we're trying to do, the charge actually has a biochemical nature. The charge is actually the ACTH. They have noticed that tears of grief have a different chemistry than tears of happiness. In tears of grief, you will find ACTH. So anyone who's ever been processed, how did you feel after you got that real good snotting and crying out? How good did you feel after that?
Wonderful.
That's because you were able to get rid of a lot of charge, which means you got rid of a lot of ACTH. You got it out your system. So if Taba means to turn from sin or be converted, and converted means to alter the physical or chemical nature, then in Dianetic processing, we're talking about the removal of ACTH and other stress hormones, one of which is what Sister Anna talked about, was cortisol. And it's an accumulation of stress hormones that is producing the imbalance and the sickness. Then auditing, couldn't that be considered as a chemical conversion?
Yes, sir.
Aren't we converting the body chemically by removing the stress hormones?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if we are following how to eat to live, we are converting the body also through diet.
That's right.
Most Elijah Muhammad says in How to Eat to Live, book 2, it's either page 50 or page 51. He says, if you want to elevate spiritually, he says, fast for 3 days. Okay, fast for 3 days. So when we're fasting, what are we doing? We're chemically converting our body. Here's something to think about. Go ahead, Sister Angela. Oh, hold on.
I just wanted to bear witness to that part of it. You know, I didn't realize until sometime later When my mom was in the hospital and she was put on life support, I started fasting. And I fasted because of reading David when he basically stole Bathsheba and his son got ill. And he fasted when his son fell ill, and he started eating when his son passed, and nobody understood what caused him to do that. And he said, you know, he has accepted Allah's will. So that was the premise of me fasting. I will say this, what came out of it, the higher spirituality, because I didn't end my fast when she passed. I ended my fast when everything was done. Um her arrangements and all everything that needed to be in place. I didn't stop until then. And it carried me. I bear witness. People were literally tripping off of me because they knew how close me and my mother were and are. And they were just waiting for me to break even at the funeral home when I went to do her hair and makeup. I made her clothes. And the guy, I've been there so many times with her for other relatives, so he's waiting for me to hit the floor. And by Allah's grace and mercy, the spiritual side of it kicked in. So I saw so much deeper. My analytical mind was so keyed in that I didn't look at anything emotionally. I analyzed it all. And I took so much from it. Praise be to Allah.
Yes, ma'am. There is a biochemical process that takes place when we are fasting. Even though the Most High Muhammad told us years and years ago, scientists today are speaking about this as if they have newly discovered this, which is why I always say that scientists today are just plagiarizing how to eat to live. They're adding the scientific language to it. But what takes place while you're fasting is your body converts from using carbohydrates as a fuel source to ketones. And ketones is the byproduct from burning fat. And based on the research, they're saying that the brain operates better off of ketones than it does carbohydrates. Let's see if we can find a quick example in the universe as a demo kit to kind of illustrate this concept. Based on when you learn astronomy in like high school and whatnot, they basically say that a star operates off of hydrogen. I think it's fission. Okay, it operates off hydrogen. Okay, you've heard that before, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the fuel source. As long as the sun burns on hydrogen, then that star will remain what they call it'll have longevity. Okay, it'll have longevity. But what happens is when that fuel source runs out, theoretically, based on what they say, and the sun starts to burn helium, it changes its fuel source. Then what happens is that star becomes enlarged and it becomes unstable. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
That's kind of like the same thing that happens with us when we change our spiritual fuel source. If we are on the teachings, then in astronomy, that's called a main sequence star. A main sequence star, our sun is like a main sequence star. It lasts like that for millions and millions of years. But it's like when the fuel source changes, the star enlarges and becomes unstable. It's almost like the same thing that happens to us. When we change our fuel source, don't we become enlarged?
Oh yeah, very big of ourselves.
Don't we become unstable?
Yes, sir.
So at another time, we'll go through and show how the different the different parts of the sequence of a life, the lifespan of a son actually can teach us aspects of ourselves. Because eventually, so that enlarged son, can we call that maybe that sun has become aberrated? Because after it becomes enlarged and unstable, then you have what's called a supernova. You have an explosion. Well, can't be like an emotional outburst?
Yep.
And then that supernova becomes so dense, and dense means illiterate or ignorant, right? If someone is real dense.
Yep. Thick-headed.
Thick-headed, hard-headed, stiff-necked, rebellious, then that neutron star becomes a black hole and begins to suck everything in. And that's kind of like what happens when we really fall off the boat. We start to take everything into our life now. Does that make sense?
Misery loves company.
Okay. So maybe at another time we'll go through that whole life cycle of the sun and see how it actually relates to you and I. We can learn something about ourselves from that. Those that follow their lusts. The word follow means to follow, to pursue, to comply with, or to be subordinate to. It means to be under someone's authority or command, or to be in agreement, which also in the language of the tech is to have ARC, right? Affinity, reality, and communication, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you look at the word lust, it means desire, it means crave, it means to yearn, it means to long for. This could be for anything, okay? And the one thing that Dr. Gabor Mate says, and I talk a lot about Dr. Gabor Mate, when he deals with addiction, he talks about addiction from the standpoint it can represent anything. Anything that we do to fill a void that causes negative consequences that we choose not to give up. That could be shopping, that could be eating, that could be gambling, that could be video games, that could be internet, that could be a whole host of things, okay? So those that follow their lusts are under someone's authority. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And the someone is not the person. One thing he said before, L. Ron Hubbard, he said before, he says there's three universes. There's the universe that belongs to the individual. So there's my universe, there's the universe, and then there's your universe. And he says one of the reasons why we fail at what we do is because we allow other people to have control over our universe, or we become a part of someone else's universe, and whatever is the God of their universe becomes our God now. That's kind of like understood it. Okay. So really, when we're stuck in our compulsions, our obsessions, or our insanities, we are under the authority of someone else. We are dramatizing someone else's valence. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We are acting other than our own self, and we are living a beast life. Does that kind of okay? Living other than our own self and living a beast life, the way you would say that in Dianetic language is being out of valence and dramatizing. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are in agreement with whatever it is that we're doing. And that agreement is based on a past incident. And I'm gonna give you an example of kind of like how this works. So the action that had to be taken at that time was necessary for survival. And I'll use this as an example. This is just one that was always on the top of my head. Let's say you have a child that lives in a household with abusive parents. Okay. And let's say that as long as let's say there's the children, okay, siblings. And as long as the siblings were quiet and they went unnoticed by the parents would never bother them. Okay, so let's say the parents had some type of addiction or whatnot. They like to drink or whatnot. But if the children are making too much noise, one of the parents might come in there and beat the child. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then the children learn how to move and how to talk quietly in order to survive that environment, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one thing that Dr. Gabor Mate says, he says, when you look at the things that take place during the childhood, see, as an adult, if I said something you didn't like on this Zoom call, you could either cuss me out or you could just leave the Zoom call, right?
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Okay. But a child can't cuss out the parent and the child can't leave the house. So the child has to find a way to endure what's taking place and survive that environment because they can't leave, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
That's that cell that in prison.
You know, so now you have siblings in order to survive this environment and not gain the attention of their parents that are abusive. They learn how to maneuver through the house and they might learn to speak quietly to one another, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, as an adult, you have an adult who's very soft-spoken. They don't really speak too loud. But that, and now as an adult, like, why are you so quiet? Why are you speaking so loud? They don't remember what took place perhaps back then, but they're very quiet and soft-spoken right now, and they talk real right and such and so. But you got to realize that that is a survival mechanism that they use to survive their childhood. But it's still a behavior they have now as an adult. But as an adult, that behavior doesn't make any sense, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because they're no longer in an environment where they need to be quiet. But they've done this for so long, this is what become.
Program.
So some of us to this day, there's certain things we do and certain things we don't do that's based on survival skills we had to acquire when we were children. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So we're not crazy. We just have
No.
these survival skills we got to get rid of because we don't need to use them anymore. But we don't know where they came from, and that's why we need to automate. So
Yes.
deviation, those that follow their lusts, and those who follow their lust desire that you should deviate with a great deviation. Okay. Sister Anya, go ahead. You're on mute. There you go.
Yes, so the comment that you just made about no longer needing those certain types of behaviors reminded me of experiences where through slavery, if we were walking through those old towns and a Caucasian was coming down the pathway, we had to step off the path onto the dirt road to make way for them. And that is something that I see often in Black people today. For no reason. We give way. We kind of defer to them to allow them to pass. We step out of their way. And I remember this has been years ago, but I remember a few times where, as you know, we're walking along, so somebody has to give way. And I noticed that the attitude of white people is that they automatically feel that you should step out of their way. And you know, and I observe people around me that Black people tend to be the one to give way. And so I would purposely not give way. And it's almost like you're playing chicken as to who's going to give way first. And they would, at the very last moment, when they realize that you're not going to step out of their way, then they finally step out of the way, and then they start apologizing and everything. And so you know, I noticed that would happen. And so it's like, I'm not stepping out of the way. I mean, just have that in my mind that I'm not stepping out of the way, you know, because this has to end with our generation. This ends, you know.
Right.
So that's something I feel that has been passed down And we're still doing that behavior, not realizing where it probably stems from.
Yes, ma'am. Stepping out of the way and holding eye contact. I am not dropping my gaze. I'm staring you right in your eyes.
Yes, sir. That's another one.
You know, Dr. Ava said it like this one time. She goes, one of the reasons why they don't like looking you directly in the eyes, she said, because, let's see if I can remember this correctly. This was, I think, from Mind Wars. So this is going back into the early 90s when the Mind Wars was a series. She said, when they look in your eyes, they see the 400 years of slavery that their ancestors put your people through.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two things my father always told me. When you shake someone's hand, make sure you give them a nice firm grip. And he says, you don't drop your gaze. So what I personally do, I will hold eye contact with an individual, and I will keep doing that until they break the gaze. It's just a little game of chicken. I guess I say I play with myself with the eye contact. I'm not dropping my gaze, and I'm definitely not stepping aside on the sidewalk. That's not happening. That is not happening. So Sister Ani is one of the little rebellious ones. Sister Patricia.
Yes, sir. Assalamualaikum. I was I was triggered when the sister was talking about, and you spoke on I witnessed something with my mom. My mother, but what I was aware of and witnessed, she was strong, and she didn't never bite her tongue, and she talked real hard. She always had me scared from the day she passed away. I was scared of her. But one time, uh, me and my ex, we had took her down to Mississippi for a family reunion. And I was really shocked of what she demonstrated. We stopped at one of those gas stations that got everything in them, almost like a truck stop situation, Pilot or something. And we walked in. My stepdad walked in over to the man's side, and my ex-husband walked. And then I came in, and I thought my mom was behind me. And so I turned around, and she was standing at the door. And it was a young white guy at the cash register. And she opened the door. She said, "May I use your bathroom?" Something in that environment triggered her to go back in time like that. And she was like in her 80s, when this happened. And it really kind of startled me because I've always seen this strong, straightforward woman. And then for her to get into that environment, she went all the way back in childhood. At that one moment, I said, "Ma, you don't have to do that no more." And the young guy was looking at her, looking at me like, "What's going on?" He was like, "Huh?" But in her mind, in whatever happened in that area, it triggered her to go back into, we don't supposed to use their bathrooms. And this was in 2007, 2005, that she demonstrated that. And I was like, so that's, like you said, it's still, you do something for so long and you don't release it, it's always going to be there.
It's going to be there.
And so, I didn't think about her getting audited because I hadn't got audited myself. So I didn't know anything about auditing. My first auditing was 2010, 11. So, I didn't understand that. And I was like, wow, she actually went back in time. I thought about it after it happened, because I couldn't, like, oh, can this really be true? But I witnessed it, and it was. That's probably when you say something being you for so long and you start acting a certain way, it prevents you from being the person who you should be. The gentle woman, the kind the motherly love. I didn't see that with her because she was always hardcore. But I seen the gentleness with her in fear. So I just thought that was, something to look at. And pay attention to.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you much, Sister Patricia. Brother Yusuf.
Brother Dukeman, words can't describe how thankful I am for the gift that God has given you in regards to sharing your studies with us as believers. You have shown me that I've been surface dwelling, and I need to dig deeper into this thing to actually create healing within myself. I don't know what Allah has allowed you to go through in your childhood to now, but it seems that you use your adverse circumstance to study more about yourself. And Allah has used your scholarship and your study to give healing to each and every one of us on this call. I love to see us all working in our gifts. And it's imperative that as your brother, that I give you flowers while you live and say thank you so much for these PowerPoint presentations, your cognitions, your in-depth study and digging into the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. A lot of us, we are scared of the tech because we don't see the seriousness of study. So God gave us a book and a man. One of your videos is, can man be a book? Yes, the book is the Honorable Minister Farrakhan.
That's right.
Because whatever we have gone through in our personal lives, Allah has allowed it to happen in the life of the minister, so he can go through it and give us healing through what circumstances that we go through in our personal life. So again, like Minister Farrakhan has gone through death, he's gone through health, he's gone through pain, he's gone through betrayal, but he's given us healing through his words, but we don't tend to listen. So again, thank you so much for all that you've done and all your wonderful scholarship, brother. As your brother and as a servant of the Messiah and on Minister Farrakhan, I appreciate you, brother. And may Allah continue to anoint you, continue to guide you, continue to strengthen you, to feed us. And I'm very, very grateful as your brother. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate
Bear
that.
witness. I bear witness.
And I'm thankful to Allah that we have the ability to go into this tech and listen to the minister. So I'm just thankful to Allah that he's given me the opportunity to do this. So, Brother Yusuf, I appreciate that deeply. Thank you.
Well, sir.
All right, I'm going to move pretty quick because the time is on us to get to our next Zoom meeting. So with regards to those that are aberrated, thank you, Sister Anya. Those that are aberrated and desire that those around them are aberrated, he goes into this from a different viewpoint in Dinah's book 1. It's called Contagion by Aberration. Does that make sense? One of the ways he described it is, he says, when you have an aberrated husband that can re-stimulate the wife, or the wife can re-stimulate the husband, then both become aberrated, and then they by contagion, they pass down the aberrations to the children. So some of us are crazy as hell because one of our parents or both of our parents were crazy as hell. Does that make sense?
I bear witness to that.
Okay. So the word deviate means it's ma'ala. And the interesting thing about ma'ala, we talked about this before, something that causes declivity or a downward spiral, or something that causes someone to digress. Remember that movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio? Anyone?
No, I don't remember that.
Go back and watch the movie Inception. It's an excellent movie. If you look at that movie with the mindset of the tech, of the mind, because Inception is about going into the mind of someone else and planting an idea, okay? Planting an idea, and then they believe that the idea belongs to them. That's a demon circuit. Inception is a great demo kit to understand how the Dianetics and aberration actually works. But in the movie Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio, every time he goes into someone else's mind to do certain things, remember, he has to bring his own mind with him, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And every time he goes in to do, because he's getting paid to do certain jobs by going into other people's mind. His wife had been deceased, and her name was Mal. Remember Mal from Inception? You don't remember? Go watch that movie. It's an awesome movie. She would always show up and mess everything up.
Yes, sir.
She would mess everything up. Her name was Mal.
Mm-hmm.
Same concept. She caused a deviation, and he was putting people at risk because whenever he went into someone else's mind, he would bring his own aberration with him. Okay, because he was not, he wasn't clear. Anyway. So those that follow their lust and want other people to deviate in the tech, those are called suppressive personalities, right?
Right.
Okay. Or
Yes,
they're
sir.
also called an antisocial personality, yes?
Antisocial, yes, sir.
And if you take those abbreviations, antisocial personality, you get the word ASP, A-S-P, and that's another name for a cobra, which is a snake. And that's why Muhammad and any Muslim will murder the devil, because he's a snake. We allow him to live, he'll do what? He'll bite someone else, right?
That's right. That's right.
So moving fast, lighten your burdens. So Allah says that he wants to make light your burden, correct? But the word burden is kafa, kafa. And it means to become lighter, to decrease in weight. There it is. She weighs other than her own self, right?
Mhm.
She's carrying around something. It means to decrease in intensity. It means to ease for someone something that is difficult or oppressive. Sounds like it's describing auditing, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
To reduce. Don't we reduce the engram?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay. To relieve someone of a burden. Isn't that
Yes.
that's auditing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the auditor is making light the burden. So could this again be a description of a process to remove from us our oppression and suppression? Remember, Allah said he's going to make light our burdens, but Allah doesn't work abracadabra.
Yes, it
That's
does.
right.
He applies mathematics and processes and rules in science to accomplish the goals, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So, and then here's where we land the plane. He says, man is created weak. Okay. Man is created weak. So the word for weakness is da'ufa. It means to be weak. It means to be slack, but it means to be attenuated. And this is where we get the word in Dianetics. This comes from science of survival. You have what's called analytical attenuation, which he abbreviates into the word anaton. Okay, anaton, analytical attenuation. It's the weakening of the mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. The way society is set up right now, it's making men weak. Men are attenuated. That's why I'm so thankful that I have the type of father that I had. May Allah be pleased with him, because my father was a no-nonsense individual, and he taught me to be a no-nonsense individual. His favorite saying was, I fear no man, and that's how he lived his life. So then when I came in contact with the minister, it was just like a double dose. The minister just had the thought, I got a double dose of what meant I'm thankful to Allah, I was raised by a real man. All praise is due to Allah. And I try to keep his spirit alive by being the hellraiser in present time.
That's how I feel with my mom. She had me cooking and cleaning and learning sewing at an early age.
Yeah. Now, the word weakness in Arabic also means to double. In the Bible, it says a double-minded man is what? Unstable in all his ways, right? Okay. So how is man created weak? How is man created attenuated? This last part, give me 5 minutes and we're going to end it. What is the first engram? Okay. So the word anaton means unconscious or unawareness. It means analytical shutoff. Okay. In the presence of any physical pain, the analyzer goes off. Even if the pain is very mild and brief, there is still a moment of analytical shutoff. In Dianetics, this is called anaton, an engineering type of abbreviation for analytical attenuation. That's Science of Survival, page 92. Thus, there was no inhibition about looking earlier than birth for what Dianetics had begun to call basic, which is the first engram of the first chain of engrams. That's Dianetics page 176. However, he also says if birth were the first engram, everybody could be cleared in 5 hours. He says birth can even be in sight, and there may still remain 100 severe prenatal experiences. That's on page 271. So a lot of the stuff we carry around is prenatal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the science today calls them transgenerational, meaning we carry stuff from grandpa, grandma, great grandpa, great grandma going back. So we have 400 years of the effects of slavery that are still in us, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So prenatal environment. This comes from a book by Dr. Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal. He says this, he says, intrauterine experiences may not be accessible to conscious recall, but they can live on as a different kind of memory, emotional and neurological imprints embedded in the cells and nervous system of the human organism. So this stuff is encoded in our physical body. Anxiety, anatomically and chemically, is an inflammation of the nervous system. That's one way of describing it. So when we feel all fidgety and we can't sit still, that's a lot of the stuff that's taking place inside of our body. Okay. He says on page 139, he says, before the event of birth, before we have even had a glimmer of sight or sound in the womb, we record the experience and history of our lives in our cells. So the research, modern day research, is bearing witness to what L. Ron Hubbard was teaching back in the 50s. They just don't give him the credit. As soon as you're a fetus, you are subject to whatever information is coming through mom's circulation, hormone levels, and nutrients. I believe that this is kind of describing what the minister taught and how to give birth to a God, correct?
Yes,
That's
sir.
right.
Okay, so we've had this tech. We've had this tech for all these years. Science is just catching up with what the Most High Elijah Muhammad taught back then.
That's what the minister said, giving us some back to what we already own.
We already got this. Then Gabor Mate says, by listening intently to movements and heartbeats, researchers are finding that the fetuses of mothers who are stressed or depressed respond differently from those of emotionally healthy women. These infants have a significantly increased risk of developing learning and behavioral problems and may themselves be more vulnerable to depression or anxiety as they age. It's no coincidence that the older we get, the more crazier we're getting. A lot of this stuff comes from our childhood. You know, when you get older, you just don't tolerate BS like you used to when you're young.
That's so
Absolutely.
true. That
Okay.
is so true.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So those of us that are still in our 30s, you know, we don't tolerate certain things. Yeah, right. Essential neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine that later play key roles in mood regulation, impulse control, attention, motivation, and the modulation of aggression, and are implicated in the very learning, behavioral, and mood difficulties the article mentions are affected by prenatal stress on the mother. That's on page 141. The Myth of Normal, excellent book to get, Dr. Gabor Mate. He's basically saying that what we're going through now as adults comes as a result of what happened to our mothers before we were even born. And this was placed in the womb, the intrauterine environment that we developed in. So we developed in an environment that was full of the stress of our mother. Quick summary. Number one, Allah's desire to explain to us and guide us into the ways or habits of those before us could be a mercy. That's part of the auditing process, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When we learn that we are simply dramatizing what was done to us or in our environment, we will understand that we are not the source of our behavior. We can forgive ourselves and let it go. It doesn't belong to us. We are not bad people. We were just brought up in a crazy environment. Aberrated people desire to aberrate people. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
You ever hear hurt people hurt people? Well, aberrated people desire to aberrate people. It is Allah's desire to make light or remove our burdens, our aberrations. This may be why we must go through the 20-year period of mind cleaning. That's mentioned in Our Savior Has Arrived. Through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we have the tech to make light our burdens. Let's do a quick round of questions and let's get to the next Zoom meeting. Brother Yusuf, you still got your hand up, or that was from last time?
Yeah, that was from last time.
Okay. Quick questions, thoughts, comments before we close it out and get to closing the gap. Did all that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that was all based on just 3 ayats from the Holy Quran. Now, if that right there is based on 3 ayats of the Holy Quran, and there's 6,236 ayats in the Holy Quran, how much more wisdom is in that book that we haven't even scratched?
Right, right.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Sister Denise, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. Real quick, it's a book called Women's Wisdom, Women's Health, and a synopsis of it is things that's going on inside of our body is connected to, like you said, the nervous system and things that has happened to us in the past. So it may seem like an illness, but it's a past illness that affects us right now. And so you know, it may be your uterus, you know, it may be your heart, but it means something else when you look at it mentally, because it has affected you. And you were saying, Brother Lukman, that we carry these things with us. So it's not just it's like you have to heal, and then your heart will be healed. If you understand what I'm saying, it's only not working, like you said, because of things we overlooked or just didn't want to deal with, and it goes into cells and areas of our body. And when we deal with that, you know, when we face the difficulty, whatever it is, you know, we'll begin to heal. That's all I want to say. Thank you for allowing me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sister Denise. In the Philadelphia Doctor course, one of the things that L. Ron Hubbard said was, wherever your injury is, and that injury keeps flaring up, that's where the engram is being stored. That's the site of where the engram is, because he says that the physical body is the reactive mind. So the reactive mind is just not some, you know, some arbitrary concept. The physical body is the reactive mind. Well, how do you know? If you read Romans chapter 7, Romans chapter 7 talks about the law of my body that is at war with the law with my mind. That chapter talks about how the body and the mind are constantly fighting one another. And those of us that are in the fight, we know that our biggest problem, our biggest war is with the physical body, correct?
Sir. Yes, sir.
The minister said it like this, and this is where we'll end it. He spoke about Jesus going up into the wilderness to fast, and he talked about the devil that tempted him. He said that devil was in Jesus. Does that make sense? If you ever want to read a good rendition of what took place with Jesus when he was fasting for those 40 days, there's a book called The Circle 7 Quran. That is a book that's used by the Moore Science Temple, the book that was given by the Honorable Noble Drew Ali. And it's based on what's called the Aquarian Gospel. It describes what Jesus did those missing years in the Bible where he's a child and now he's an adult. That book gives you the information of what took place in between that. And it gives a description, one of the probably best descriptions I've ever read as to what Jesus went through when he was in the wilderness for those 40 days fasting. Excellent, excellent explanation. Sister Patricia, you have the last comment, and then we will go ahead and close it out.
2 things. Repeat that name of the book again. You said Serpent 7 Quran?
It's called The Circle,
Oh,
The Circle 7 Quran. This is what it looks like. That's what it looks like. It is the it's the Holy Quran of the Moor Science Temple of America. When I worked as a chaplain in the prison, I made it a point, but I've been doing this my whole life, ever since I was a child. I've always been studying religion. And I made it a point that because I was a chaplain in charge of communicating with all the religions, I made sure I studied whatever books I had not studied up to that point. I made sure I got their religious material and started reading their books, so that when I spoke to someone of the Moor Science Temple, or someone that was Hindu, or someone that was a Sikh, or someone that was
Spoke their
Baha'i,
language.
I
You
had
spoke
their
their
books
language.
so I could speak their language.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized is that when you get to the root of the different books, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Kitab Yaqdas, which is the book of the Baha'i faith, the Circle 7 Quran, it's all talking about the same truth, but it's being taught using different symbolism, different words, different terms, but there's only one truth that exists. Okay. Last statement is this, and this is from the Upanishads. Wisdom is one, but the wise know it by many names. That's why our lessons is the fulfillment in 13 Rules of Instruction. What we have is the fulfillment of all of it. That's why we have to study our lessons, study the minister's words, extract as much as we can extract, because that allows us to speak multiple languages. Okay. With that,
Okay, but I also want to say something real quick. You
ahead.
said in Romans chapter 7, the mind and the body wrestle with each other or
Yes.
fight with each other. Well, that makes the body have pain too?
There's a type of pain that the body will try to use. There's a certain type of pain that the body will use to kind of try to force us to give in to its desires. Does that make sense? It's called craving.
Yes.
Okay, craving is what the body will use to try to get us to give in and go to McDonald's and get the 3 Big Macs and the apple pies, or Krispy Kreme and get a whole dozen of donuts. It's craving. We have to overcome the cravings of the flesh. And Brother Lukman is not speaking from the standpoint of one who's overcome the craving. I want to make that perfectly clear. I have not arrived yet. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, family. Thank you. With Allah's help, this will be up and running on YouTube before tomorrow morning. Let us all get over and show our support to closing the gap. That being said and done, thank you for your patience, your time, and attention. And let us go ahead and close out in prayer. Attention prayer. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Master of the day of judgment in which we now live, the alone do we serve, thine aid do we seek. Please, Allah, guide us on the straight path, the path upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray after hearing thy teaching. And all I will beseech your help and ask your mercy. We believe in you and trust in you for all that we need. We are helpers in this cause with your power, so please, Allah, grant to us success. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Walaikum salam. Beautiful, brother. Beautiful.
Praise be to Allah.
Because